pleasant morning to you all out there. The program is the Dailies, where we keep you updated with all that is happening from our Nigerian newspaper, and then possibly we'll see what is also happening internationally and also on sports and business. I am Sele Elisha Dasham. I'll be doing the program with Rachel Tansey. Good morning,
Morning,
Rachel.
Sally.
All right, and to our viewers, do well to join us live also on Facebook and on YouTube. You can drop your comment or your views on any of the story we will be looking at. We're still seeing the issue of River State. We are hoping they'll be able to resolve whatever conflict they are having between the former governor and the present governor of the state. These and many other stories are what we will be looking at on the paper. And Rachel, let's go fast into the paper, starting with the first newspaper.
On First News newspaper, Tinubu's intervention not needed in Rivers and Ondo statement coming from Fashola. Supreme Court to hear Kano governorship appeal on Thursday. Nigerians will celebrate what's Christmas under Tinubu, says Timmy Frank, and I disagree with this statement because Christmas is a lot of things and I don't know what are the basics for such a statement, but no, I don't think Nigerians will celebrate the wars. We will have a splendid Christmas celebration. BUK Alumni Association elect Shaibu Idris president and other officials. The big story on the paper, Tinubu stakeholders, brokers, peace and Rivers crisis. As Wike Fubara signed 8-point agreement, assembly to stop impeachment proceedings. Fubara to drop all court cases, Speaker Ameule, 27 defectors, lawmakers be recognized. Assembly member to choose venue for plenaries. Appeal Court upholds Governor Finteri's election, fines Binani 1 million naira. Tinubu to NNPCL board, your appointment not for cake sharing. INEC tentatively fixed by-elections rerun polls for February 1st, 2024 as court stops commission from conducting by-election to replace 27 Rivers lawmakers. Still on First News newspaper, court restrains Buhari's minister from holding public office. 3.5 billion naira debt, court freezes oil government accounts in 10 banks. 2 die as fire raises ex-governor Akala's residence, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the next paper, which is the New Telegraph newspaper. And a New Telegraph newspaper, we are having the big story still starting with Rivers crisis. Again, Tinubu broker peace among Wike, Fubara and others. Direct Rivers governor to withdraw court cases, represent the budget to the full house, halt impeachment bid against governor and defectors. So you can find detail of that story on page 4. UN approves Nigeria's continental shelf extension to 220 nm. Provides opportunity to redraw territory map to boost marine economy. You can find more detail of that story inside the paper. And on World Bank, remittance to Nigeria rose by 2% to $20.5 billion in 2023. NASPIC holds in Petroleum Ministry 2024 budget, where we're seeing Senate seek independent budgetary provision for NIDCOM. And on the IGP, he said 4,451 kidnapped, murder and other suspects arrested in 10 weeks. 134 victims rescued. This really nice one, and we hope to see more rescue and also more work coming from that department. And then from the issue of Adamawa, remember yesterday we had the appeal where we see appeal court upholds Governor Fiteri's election. And then on Kanu Guba, Supreme Court to commence hearing on Thursday. You can follow up that story on page 3 and 26. NIMA issues strike notice over revised NIDCOM's accountment allowances. You can do well to find more detail of that story on page 4. Other stories on the paper, Tinubu to review police affecting paper industry, grant waivers to transporters to cut fare at the celebration. And on the issue of Japa, why best brains leave Nigeria by the VC. Pope approves blessing. You can find that story also on page 4. And we have TRCN, 3,963 teachers fail qualifying exams. Cancel result of those engaged in malpractice, seek you should seek flat to prosecute erring institution and unqualified teachers. And I think this should be where we need to have the question where over 3,000, almost 4,000 teachers, as far as I'm concerned, when you round it up, it's 4,000 teachers actually fail qualifying exam. Then you can't help but ask the question, Rachel. I mean, what are the kind of teachers we're having in our schools presently? What is lacking to the point that we're having this number of teachers failing qualifying exams? And I remember there are always criteria before an employment is being given to a teacher. You must have NC or teachers college. You must just be qualified for that
Yes.
that position. So this exam, I mean, I'm asking the question. In fact, it has got to the point that some are also even trying to look for a way. We're having the issue of malpractice. I mean, there are teachers that were against us and they were saying the same people are looking for a way just to pass it. And I think this really calls for a decay, because that is what I'm seeing. There is a decay in the educational sector, and we need to do something collectively. The government needs to look into it. What is happening? What is, I mean, universal basic education doing about this? What is every, I mean, from the down from the state level commissioner of the commission of Ministry of Education, and also down to even the federal level, what is happening at this various level? We need to look inwardly to be sure that, you know what, if we're having teachers failing this, then maybe we should go to our tertiary institutions and be sure to that our lecturers are actually qualified, because it's sad that we're seeing this number. I remember there was a time it happened in Kaduna as well, where we saw the number of teachers to the point that the former governor had to even sack some of the
Yeah,
teachers.
we
So
saw that.
I really hope, and I'm looking forward to the fact that there should be also a rebranding, a revamping in this sector, because looking at these numbers is not a good number. We're already saying that we are short staffed when you look at even our secondary and even primary schools. And so I'm hoping that with this number here, there will be a look into what is really happening in the educational sector, and then something will be done about that.
So like the presence of unqualified teachers already shows the failure of the education system, because we shouldn't have that in the first place. The same way you're most likely going to meet a biochemist working in the bank because of connection is the same way you can obviously meet someone who read accountants, account, who read account, teaching in a school,
But it's
in
not
primary
bad as far
school.
as it's in the right direction. But something
Well,
is wrong,
is that's why
Rachel.
they are failing the exams, because teaching is a professional
Course.
yes, it's a professional course. And what people don't understand is that it's not just about knowing how to teach. There are certain basics, and that is why they are failing the exams. However, there's nothing wrong with switching careers or profession as long as you learn, because there are some certain exams, certain courses, certain tests that you should be able to take to certify you. But you see, we don't even have a system that gives room for that, because with the way the economy is, people are just basically looking for where to survive. So if you didn't read education, for example, and you found a way of surviving in education, that is as a teacher, then you're supposed to do the needful, that is to learn and upgrade your knowledge when it comes to education, what it's supposed to be and all of that. But I believe that this is where we can see the gap, that okay, certain things that are supposed to put in place. If I am changing my career, I'm expected to learn and study and then be up to date with what is obtainable in that sector. However, that is not the case when it comes to education in Nigeria. People just feel it's education, I can just go in there and teach. But when you come to write the exams, you will fail because you're unqualified. You being knowledgeable is not good enough. You are still not a qualified teacher, because this is a professional course and all of that. But then I just hope to see that things like that are put in place. If not, we would keep seeing this number of teachers failing examinations. We would keep having half-baked teachers, and eventually what that means is that we will be having half-baked students out there. But then I just hope that the needful is being done, and certain things we face, it's not that difficult to solve this kind of problem. I just hope that the people who are supposed to do the needful.
All right, let's look at other stories still on New Telegraph newspaper. INEC to conduct rerun polls in 34 constituencies in February. You can find more of that story on page 3. And downside, we see eating late dinner might rise stroke risk. This is coming from scientists. I think it's really important that everybody read that story on page 26. And that's all a New Telegraph newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, NNPCL board get presidential marching orders on performance. And on welfare, NGE to launch trust fund first quarter of 2024. 10 miners arrested in Kogi, 50 trucks carrying coal impounded. You can find more details on page 5. Tinubu to NPA and will always uphold media freedom. Our democracy thrives on transparency and accountability, coming from the Minister of Information, Malagi. You can find details on page 6. The big story on the paper, Fubara Wike feud. Tinubu steps in, orders resolution of Rivers crisis. Impeachment move must stop, court case drop. And then we have Amewule remains speaker, lawmakers to get their dues. Governor to resubmit ex-commissioner's name, represent 2024 budget. You can find more details on page 6. We are sure of victory at Supreme Court coming from the Deputy Governor of Kano State. UBA gets African Development Bank's $175 million facility to support infrastructure development and others. And from our MRDC, boosting science education in secondary schools. At the downside of the paper, INEC set for rerun by-elections in 34 constituencies. Polls constitute 2.8% of 1,191 petitions. Details can be found on page 6, and that's all news on Blueprint newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, INEC fixes by-election into Senate and House orders for February. You can find that on page 5. And on budget of 2024 committees ordered to submit report. And then Benin Republic, Niger, Togo owe Nigeria $11.16 million electricity bill. And you wonder why they are having electricity and we do not have in the country. Well, you can look up that story both on one on page 6 and the other on page 7. 2 die in Akala house fire. And we have ministry canvassing Soul Day celebration. Perform or be fired, Tinubu tell NNPCL board. Treat Niger Delta with better care. You can find detail on the front page and on page 4. Fubara Wike strike deal. Warren Camp signed 8-point agreement after presidential intervention. And the terms here say all matters in court by Fubara and his team shall be withdrawn immediately. All impeachment proceedings should be dropped immediately. The House, as led by Martin, shall be recognized alongside the 27 members who resigned from PDP. So you can continue to read more of the story on page 4. President pledges ease of doing newspaper business, and we have MPAN leader at the ASU Villa. Downside of the paper, Presidential CNG Initiative Committee unable to account for palliative and cash. You can find detail of that story on page 6. And that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On Voice of Liberty, Kano governorship battle, Supreme Court to hear Abba Yusuf appeal Thursday. Budget Minister Bagudu moves to block France from repatriating $150 million. Abacha loot allegedly demands $30 million cut. And in Zamfara, bandit killed college lecturer after collecting 2 million naira ransom. And on the Yellowtude, we have Nigerian Christians face bleak Xmas over food inflation and rising cost of living. Barely 7 days to the Christmas celebration, the horizon looks dark and gloomily cloudy for Nigerians as food inflation, rising cost of living, and general economic meltdown has dashed the hope and plans of many Nigerians. Governors bar civil servants from wearing native attire, kaftans, and Baban regard to offices on work days. This is in Niger State. Ex-President Buhari's government extrajudicially executed 150 pro-Biafra protesters, 350 civilians in Zaria. This is coming from Amnesty International. In Rivers State, Tinubu orders all impeachment proceeding against Fubara to be dropped. And end-of-year holidays, Nigerians stranded over cash scarcity, network issues in banks, and that's all the news on Voice of Liberty.
You know, Rachel, I was smiling. I mean, the story coming from Niger State where the governor have burned that. So that is to say we should be looking at more corporate. But I'm hoping that the governor is also looking at doing something about their pay. over
We
there,
hope so
because
because
if you want them to
to
appear
look that way,
on corporate from Monday to Friday, then you should be able to do something.
it should be.
I mean, Fridays then was when you see people wearing native and then trying to
Exactly.
dress. But anyway, that's just on the lighter note. Let's take a look at the next paper, which is the Vanguard newspaper. And on the Vanguard newspaper, banks borrowing from CBN rises to 559% to 376.6 billion naira. Detail found on page 19. Tinubu promises to uphold media freedom, respect divergent views. You can find detail on page 8. Fake employment, over 1,000 Nigerians stranded in the UK. This is coming from the IOM. And Rachel, it's the reason why we're saying verify anything before you leave. And because you and I know that to even leave Nigeria to another country is not cheap. It's very expensive. And here we're seeing that about over 1,000 are actually, stranded because of fake employment. And I think that is good. We have good documentation. Be very sure of whatever employment you're being given. Not just this is in the UK. So we never can tell how many more Nigerians are stranded in other parts of the world again. I mean, yesterday we saw about some migrants in the Libya,
Yes,
and we
who
keep
shipwrecked and they
yeah,
died,
and all of that. So before you leave, be very, very certain. And that's a lot of people say it's not about leaving, but do you have something that will keep you going over there? So in as much as we want them back home, but we also want you that when you're going there, it should be for something better. Be sure of what have been promised to you. Don't just be so fast and excited that, I mean, I'm leaving Nigeria, and then we always say that even if you have a job, you're a second-class citizen, not to even talk about when you don't have anything. So we hope that Nigerians will be very careful and to verify whatever employment they're being given before they leave the country.
I mean, Sele, we always have other sense. We know we keep saying it's not just the five sense organs that we have, but people insist that there is a sixth sense, and there's also always your intuition and your ability to be able to discern and then be able to read between the lines and be able to feel it in your body that certain things is not right. But we can even say that, you know what, we don't have the sixth sense. What happened to your brain? The first and number one, why would you be stranded in the UK over fake employment? I believe that this is an issue of a mindset, Sele. A lot of people want to go out there by hook or crook. So even when they're seeing that this doesn't look legit, they will still insist on going. And then, you know, Nigerians now, we go survive. We keep telling ourselves we have terms to just allow our foolishness to thrive. We will tell ourselves things like, as bad as it be, we will find our way. You know, we have that kind of mentality. We practice it here, and we take that mentality with us everywhere. So you are saying, you know that what you have is not genuine, is not concrete, but you will insist that, you know what, we will go there. But what they don't understand, that life is not the same as it is here. You are going there.
The system there, it's different.
You don't have any sibling to go and squat with. First of all, you have to put that into consideration. And we saw that there is a new there are new rules in attached to even having jobs in the UK.
Yeah.
We saw that they moved it from
earned,
26 to
yeah.
$37. That is
Yes.
the minimum you can earn before you even move to the UK, if it's based on employment and all of that. And I believe that, I mean, we are educated, Sele, in Nigeria. So we are not, because for you to be employed, it means you have some kind of qualification. So are we, I mean, it proves the fact that, I mean, school doesn't necessarily mean you're intelligent, but then still certain things shouldn't move past us. I believe that for these 1,000 people, I don't have numbers, I don't have figures, no survey and all of that, but our mindsets, and we want to imagine that every system is like our own, and we want to hope that when we get there, the same kind of rubbish happening here is happening there, and when we go there, we see it's a different thing. So for these 1,000 Nigerians, I just hope that all goes well with them, that they're eventually able to come back home, because trust me, some will be taken advantage of, and it's going to really be sad. But I just hope that they are able to come back home and do the needful, and they might not be able to go back again, because this is already red flag. They might be banned from coming back to the country and all of that. So in it all, be careful. We will not
Mm.
stop talking about it. We're not against anybody leaving the country, but do it the right way. And we don't want to be seeing this. Now, tomorrow, the next thing is the government trying to rescue Nigerians in the UK. We don't want that. There's so much to face in this country than rescuing people who refuse to be careful. So, I mean, it's
Because
just,
eventually this is calling on the
yes,
government, because eventually it's the
it's
government that
still
will
the
have to look
government,
for a way
Sele.
to bring them back home.
Yes.
Well, other stories still on the Vanguard. Newspaper coalition fault ECOWAS measure on Niger Republic, detail found on page 8. NGE to launch fund for media sustainability professionalism. You can find that on page 10. And on Rivers crisis, Wike Fubara signed accord as Tinubu broker peace. How Tinubu, ODD, NSA, and other stakeholders resolve face-off. Impeachment move against Fubara dropped. All matters in court to be withdrawn. G27 leaders, Amawula recognized as speaker. Governor to represent 2024 budget to assembly. Remuneration, benefit of all lawmakers restate. House to choose where to sit. Names of commissioners who resigned to be resubmitted to the House. Dissolution of LG administration's notified detail can be found on page 5. Also, we have two pictures story. One is President Tinubu meets the NPAN. You can see him over there. And then downside also we have inauguration of the NNPC Limited Board, where the president have told them to make sure that they work hard. You can look up other stories still inside the paper, and that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, Tinubu promises to review policies affecting newspapers industry, to intervene on high cost of newsprint, pledges media freedom, respect for divergent views. The big story, EC report, Kebbi, Akwa Ibom, Katsina, top state with poorest IGR. Lagos ranks first with 650 billion naira, Rivers 172 billion naira, and Delta 85 billion naira, and Anambra 33 billion naira. You can find details on page 3. Lawyers ask CJ to investigate orders stopping INEC from conducting fresh election. This is still in Rivers State. INEC may conduct 2023 rerun by-elections in February, insists on fresh primaries. Rivers crisis, Tinubu, Fubara, Odili meet in Aso Rock. President to NNPCL board, you will be dissolved without prior notice to non-performance. Once profitability, service, Niger Delta recognition prioritized. You can find details on page 25. Nigerian Guild of Editors to launch trust fund. Federal government to empower Chibok community with 210 million naira farming equipment. NERC third quarter report, federal government incurred 204.59 billion naira subsidy in power sector. Still on Daily Sun, Peter Obi alleges threat to life for refusing to accept bribe. And at the downside of the paper, two-feared dead as fire engulfed resident of ex-Oyo Governor Akala. You can find details on page 4. We have a picture story showing President Bola Tinubu, Minister of Information and National Orientation. We have President Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria. This was during a walking lunch in Abuja yesterday, and that's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, varsity workers differ on centralized payment system. You can find detail of that on page 7. And Trump under fire over immigrant comment. That is trending on the paper. You can look up that story. Federal government spent 375.8 billion naira on electricity subsidy in 9 months. President to review policies hurting newspaper industry. You can look up that story on page 7. And on 2023, INEC to conduct rerun by-elections in 34 constituencies. Tinubu brokers fresh truce in Rivers crisis. You can find that on page 4 with the writer warning parties asked to withdraw all litigation. Fubara to recognize the 27 pro-Wiki lawmakers. Impeachment proceeding against governor to be dropped, and then assembly members can sit anywhere. You can find detail of that on page 4. Editor's Guide to Launch Trust Fund. You can find that on page 7. Police arrest 806 suspended kidnappers, rapists in 10 weeks. UBA secure $175 million on African Development Bank loan. Egypt's Sisi wins third term as president. You can find details of that on page 6. We still have the picture story also trending on this paper. You can look up that story more. But before we continue, Rachel, I'd love us to take a break at this moment. We'd love to hear what our viewers have to say concerning the stories that are in the paper and also what your views are and some recommendation if possible. Please stay tuned with us. We'll be back after the break.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Thank you for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies. We've been looking at a number of stories on the paper. We're seeing that finally the president has intervened in what is happening in Rivers. So it seems we're going to be having one house together with the other 25 that actually left. So the house is going to be united, and we're hoping to see more governance going on in that state. We look at a number of stories also on the paper. So at this moment, the phone lines are open to our viewers at home. You can do well to call us. We'd love to hear what your own views are concerning any of the story that is of interest to you. I still have Rachel with me. Thank you so much,
You're
Rachel.
welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's take a look at the next paper, Rachel.
On Nigerian Tribune, UBA secures $175 million facility from African Development Bank towards supporting private sector infrastructure development. Tinubu to NPAN, I will consider paper industry policy review. NGE to launch trust fund on media sustainability and professionalism. You can find details on page 9. The big story on the paper, how presidency brokered truce between Fubara and Wike. Shetima, Bajabia, Mila, Ribadu, Odili in attendance. Details can be found on page 6. And then we have agreement reached at the meeting. Impeachment proceedings against Fubara should stop. And then all matters instituted in court by Rivers governor has his team should be withdrawn immediately. Leadership of Rivers Assembly led by Amele should be recognized along with 27 lawmakers who defected. Fubara must represent state budget to a properly constituted House of Assembly. Names of all commissioners who resigned should be resubmitted to Assembly for approval. The dissolution of local government administration is null and void. We have remuneration and benefits of all leaders of assembly and staff must be reinstated immediately. Governor should not interfere with the funding of assembly. INEC may hold by-elections rerun in February 2024. In Adamawa State, Appeal Court upholds Finteri's election, fines Binani 1 million naira. Tinubu threatens to sack NNPCL board if they do not perform. You can find details on page 7. 3,963 teachers failed professional qualifying exams coming from the TRCN. Fire gods Aloha Kala's resident. Details on page 9. EFCC declaring Ogunloye wanted, a joke coming from Shoyinka. You can find details on page 8. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On Nigerian News Direct, Nigeria's revenue increased by 181.82 billion naira in November. This is coming from FEC. You can find details of that in the paper. Wike Fubara reached truce as Tinubu resolve conflict. Banks liquidity plunges to 300.68 billion naira in August 2023. This is a report coming from the CBN. Bottlenecks in Federal Tax Policy Limited, Lagos IGR. This is coming from Sanwo-Olu. You can look up that story on page 2. And the big story, I won't allow businesses die on my watch, coming from the president. Hint on granting waivers to airline, road transport operators in festive season. as newspaper proprietors seek tax waiver to caution rising costs. You can find detail of that on page 3, and we're seeing a picture story where they took with the president, and that's all on Nigerian News Direct.
On the Punch newspaper, Fubara Wike reached truth as Tinubu intervenes again. Lagos government congratulates Punch on NMAA awards. Details can be found on page 13. The big story, National Assembly may pass budget Saturday, 541 MDAs and defense. The writer under the story, Senate reps to harmonize appropriation bill eyes Saturday for passage, coming from a Senate spokesman. Committee submitting reports January to December budget cycle will be sustained, says committee chair. Tinubu to review policies affecting newspapers, industry, editors launch trust fund. You can find details on page 29. Also, a picture story showing editors and stakeholders in this. At the downside of the paper, 800 billion naira illicit drugs seized, 42,105 offenders nabbed. This is coming from Marwa. Husband kills wife over food in Lagos. What a sad story. You can find details on page 4 and 5. 2 killed as fire raises late Aloha Kala's resident, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. Nigerians may burn over 1.5 trillion naira on cooking gas in 2024 amid incentive. And we're actually seeing a picture here showing us Nigerians have spent 1.5 trillion naira on cooking using the LPG. Price of cooking gas has risen by 165% since 2018. And then here we are seeing the current consumption stands at 1.5 million tons yearly, and then 800 k tons of cooking gas imported yearly, 10.5 billion naira VAT waivers yearly. Now here we're seeing that the average price of 1 kg of the LPG as of 2018, it was 416 naira per kg, and then in 2019 it was like 334.08, and then in 2020 it was 389.40, in 2021 was 353.76. Then in 2022 the price was even worse. It went up to 843.60, and then in 2023 it is 1,100 naira. Even as of Saturday, that was the price of it. And here we're seeing local production is 350,000 tons yearly, while others make up the 250,000 balance. Now, Nigeria has the highest deforestation in the world by 3.7%. So you begin to ask questions and all of that. Well, Rachel, our fingers are crossed. I mean, with all of these stories, and then I don't know whether 2023 or 24 rather will be seeing whether it will be going down, because I remember the federal government saying they will be coming through to make sure that they slash the price and all of that, and they were still saying it at 1,001. I'm really afraid for what will become of it by January, but I'm hoping that the government can come in and intervene in this issue.
And funny enough, Sele, what took my attention is the Nigeria has highest deforestation in the world at 3 point. You know what that means is that firewood, we are cutting down our trees.
We are.
And it's also carbon emission, because we are also seeing that that's also very dangerous to
our
us.
health.
We've seen that statistics on the
Yes.
paper in the past. And why I'm concerned is that because we see gas and things like gas as renewable energy. We see them as what don't take long. And then when the things that are supposed to make life better becomes this expensive,
yes.
and then we have no option but to keep cutting down our trees because firewood seems to be the best. Now, not only are we faced with deforestation, we are talking about climate change. And we know what not having trees, it means first, we don't have oxygen. Second, it means erosion. Thirdly, it means flooding. It just means that everything, yes, we are looking at an ecosystem that is decaying on a daily basis because of deforestation. And then we are now seeing that, okay, what could have helped solve that? Because there was once a time where everybody was rushing to get this liquid gas because
It was cheaper,
affordable,
affordable, faster.
But then reverse is the case now, and we keep seeing that for every good consumed in Nigeria. There was once a time kerosene was for the masses, and now it's not even available and unaffordable. So we are seeing the same going to the cooking gas, and then I'm just looking forward to to when Nigeria will start getting things right, most especially when it comes to highly consumed goods and services in the country. I mean, something must have missed. We are seeing that for every other thing. But then, for me, there's so much work that needs to be
lot,
done.
Richard, a lot.
We will never stop giving the awareness. When you cut down a tree, please plant
like
another
4.
one.
Yeah.
Yes, because we need the wood. Of course, we can't say stop using firewood, but please plant more trees. And then we just hope that concerning this, the government will do something about it, that eventually we can go back to the price of 2018. It is possible. Let's see how things unfold when it comes to the oil and gas sector.
You know, Rachel, when you're talking, I just can't help from where I stay. Normally, I can't actually have a view of what the wildlife park looked like because, I mean, it was green, it was thick. And then I remember while we were younger, I mean, we could go there and have fun. But we are very careful because there were reptiles, especially snakes. But right now, Rachel, you could actually see how clear that place is because people keep cutting down the trees. I'm going to talk about people who are into mining, illegal mining, has taken over those places. And then, just like you said, people keep cutting down the trees. And because people cannot afford the liquid gas, so what do you expect them to do? They will cut down the trees. So the government really, really need to come in. They need to intervene. We've seen a number of states that have given, you know, this planting of trees. They are very, I mean, Rachel, it will surprise you to know that as of maybe 2 months or 3 months, a bag of charcoal was maybe 3,000. Right now, a bag of charcoal is over 7,000, Rachel. So what are we saying?
So even the trees are expensive.
The trees are also expensive because you need to burn the trees to get the charcoal. So what are we not saving? I just hope, honestly, Rachel, because sometimes when you start talking, you can't help but get emotional with what that is happening. But I believe that the government, please, they should truly come into, you know, they should intervene in issues like this. Still on the Guardian newspaper, we have Nigeria delegation to COP28 is sensitive to economic reality. This is an editorial you can find on page 12. 3.5 billion debt court freezes Oyo's government accounts in 10 banks. You can look up that story on page 5. Irrigation agriculture experts recommend new land administration method. You can look up that on page 4. Energy Wando JV commission multi-billion naira project in Delta. Senate gives panel 48 hours to submit the 2024 budget reports. INEC plans rerun by elections for February 2024. Tinubu brokers truce as Fubara Wike sign peace agreement and Tinubu meet newspaper proprietors, promises press freedom and others. And we have LCCI raises concern on inflation crisis, charges CBN on new approach. You can look up that business story on page 15, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On Sporting Sun newspaper, Kane breaks Bundesliga record for 20 goal. How? You can find details on the back page. With Osimhen, I struggled more. The big story, Pesero's provisional AFCON list, Ahmed Musa Ekong make Eagles return. We have South African-based 3 home-based goalies included. Owoni dropped, Wakali Umar listed. You can find more details on page 6. Bellingham leads Pachichi's award leads. And we have Mourinho rules out Arsenal EPL title. PSG, Al Hilal, Al Nassr in transfer tussle to sign Casemiro. You can find details inside the paper. We have the Brenner's 7-acre mansion ransacked by burglars. And we have UCL last 16 draw. Man City meets FC Copenhagen and Arsenal faces FC Porto. We have Europa League knockout stage draw. You can see the table and what team will be facing the other. Milan draws, renews, Roma takes on Feyenoord. You can find details on page 3. Wilder confirms March 9 date for Anthony Joshua fight. Wilder confirms March 9 as date for Anthony Joshua fight. You can find details on the back page, and that's all the news on Sporting Sun newspaper.
On the Metrics newspaper, coming from Lagos State, Sanwo-Olu inaugurates 750 million naira market transfer money. You can find details of that inside the paper. Champions League, Man City to face Copenhagen Arsenal draw. You can find details of that sports story on page 16. Federal government will uphold media freedom, respect divergent views. Tinubu assures the MPAN. And Rivers crisis peace at last. how Tinubu finally resolved Wike Fubara's face-off. You can look at other writer following that story inside the paper. JAM increases 2024 UTME registration fee from 5,700 to 7,700 for those who are planning to register for that, and you begin to ask the reason. I mean, they will definitely tell you the cost of materials and other things have increased, Rachel. So that is the price for those who will be registering for the JAM 2024. Public sector lead private sector by 370 billion naira by the second quarter of 2023 in pension. You can look up that story on page 11. And also here we are seeing Tinubu read riot act to the new NNPCL board, demands sustained excellence in performance. President Tinubu accepts Lalong resignation as Labour Minister heads to Senate. So I think that part of the by-election we'll be having will also be in Plateau State because, okay, he has already taken the Senate. So right now the president will have to look at somebody take over the ministerial position. Even though we're told that Lalong have given suggestion or people he actually recommend about 4 or 5 of them. So it's left for the president to go through it and then we have a replacement. But we hope whoever will be taking the position of the Minister of Labor and Employment, it's a big work. We need somebody that will be active, not somebody that will be sleeping on duty. And I think that's it. And that's all on the Metrics newspaper.
On this day newspaper, Tinubu vows to uphold media freedom, respect divergent views, pledges to review extant policies affecting newspaper industry, acknowledges existing rules hindering local access to newsprint, says government granting waivers for air, road, rail transport system, moves to reduce price of cooking gas. The big story, Wike Fubara signs Tinubu's truce, leave to fight another day. All court cases instituted by Fubara to be withdrawn. You can find all the details of the story on page 10. National Assembly may pass 2024 appropriation bill this week. We have NPAN visits President Tinubu, which is the picture story on the paper, and that's all the news on this day newspaper.
Rachel, you and I kept talking about the issue in rivers. I mean, but finally the SPs, I think it will be time for us to also have a little chit-chat on that. I mean, I was wondering, why did we have to wait for the president to actually intervene before, there's two heads will realize that, I mean,
so was that all what was needed? That's the question that has been in my head. Did we just have to make Tinubu look like the hero here? I mean, no offense, of course, it's important for the president to step in, but was that all that was needed for the peace to be in the first place? Because I don't understand that the president will just step in and you sign a truce and that's over. What was the problem in the first place? Has it been fixed? Because we're having the paper saying leave to fight.
Yeah, especially these days. So I'm wondering.
Because it just feels like, okay, yes, president stepped in and said, be in peace. But obviously the issue has been swept under the carpet. And, well, there's just peace, Sele, because it was getting tiring talking about rivers over and over and seeing the endless wave of misunderstanding between the lawmakers, Wike, and I just hope that Wike gets to face his business in the FCT and Fubara gets to face his job also in rivers and let the lawmakers come back and do the needful for the state also.
Rachel, I just, the reason I was looking at this because, I mean, we saw during the weekend it was a very funny one because we saw a member that actually threatened Wike that he shouldn't step his foot in rivers. And then we saw Wike during the weekend. He was there to attend a burial. He was also together with some monarchs, traditional rulers, and he was talking about the fact that, I mean, there should be peace and all of that, and everybody should live and try to do the right thing. And then we now saw Fubara taking the lead of Wike, working with a live band. And his song was funny where he was saying, day your day, make I day my day. And I was wondering, I mean, indirectly, you're
so
speaking to
drama.
somebody, you're talking to somebody. Because we remember Wike also had a live band during his time where we saw Acid, Sweet Tree, The Pepper, and all of those songs,
all of that,
kept coming up. But I mean, the thing with politicians, I mean, they say one thing today and then tomorrow they're saying another thing. But just like you and I have said, we just hope that this is not because the president was actually able to intervene, but should be that the root problem has been dealt with. Because if we're just dealing with this problem from the surface, believe you me, it will spring up
We will
again. I
see
mean,
that.
when you cut down with tree and you don't remove it from the roots, new ones will come up.
will.
So I'm hoping that do not be. I keep emphasizing this, Rachel. Let us not have followers being loyal to individuals. Be loyal to your state.
Yeah.
Because I remember, was it yesterday or so, you made mention of the fact that these people will go, but the state
The
will
state
remain.
remains, yes.
And because with all of this rift they were having, the peoples of rivers were the ones suffering
Of
from
course.
the. So we are hoping to see that regardless of what indigenous group you belong to in rivers, you should put your head together, give the governor the support he needs. We do not want to hear issues of this party is here and other body is there. No, let everybody come together for the well-being of Rivers State. Well, Rachel, let's take a look at the last paper we will be looking at today, which is the Daily Times newspaper. And on the Daily Times newspaper, federal government will foreign and local investors into Nigeria's energy sector. You can find detail of that. We're seeing that, I mean, a lot of things are happening. We hope that the investors are not that are presently in the country will be able to do something to keep them back as we are wooing more investors to invest in the country. And also, state on rivers crisis, Tinubu reconcile Fulbara Wiki at second try. Also, we have here federal government will respect press freedom, divergent views, Tinubu tells the MPAN. Chief of Air Staff urges troops to sustain high pressure on terrorists and others. And we have Sani distance self from Erufai, yes, attends Christmas carol. I'm really happy when I see governors, regardless of what their beliefs are, trying to put their heads together to actually make sure that, you know what, I am a governor, so you're not governor for the Christians, or you're a governor
Yes.
or you are the governor of the state. So you should associate yourself with what is happening there. And I love when I see things like this happening. That is to say that Kaduna State will live in peace again once more. Looking at the move the present governor is taking. And we have a writer here that said he came on his own, not officially invited. Kansas. And then we are having Christian leaders preach tolerance, unity in Yola. You can look up more of that inside the paper. And we're having here for the Daily Times saying that 15 January 2024 is JAM. Application for sales date registration fee is 6,002, where we saw another paper saying 7,000. So we just hope that we get the clear figure so that people who are planning to actually register for the JAM will be able to know exactly the amount before you go ask money. And then eventually we have some parents that will begin to question you when
Of
you
course.
ask them a particular amount. So we hope to see that. You can look up that story on page 5 of the Daily Times. And that's all on the Daily Times newspaper, and also how far we can go on the program. Thank you, Rachel.
You're
for doing
welcome,
this with me.
Celine.
And thank you also to our viewers and our supporters. Thank you to the crew members for making this program a success. Until we come again, do have a blessed day ahead.